why the government's handing Savage Messiah and other thrash metal bands taxpayer subsidies.
It is Keynesian Economics 101, isn't it? The music industry is in decline. So you could equate that to a decline in aggregate demand, and here we go, the state coming in and injecting liquidity into the market to help us out.
Now, taxpayer subsidies for the arts have traditionally helped ballet, opera and museums. Now they're giving a leg up to thrash metal bands, acid punk and hip-hop. The aim is to promote British talent overseas, boost exports and maybe even create some jobs. But should taxpayers' money be used this way? We'll be debating that in a moment with a songwriter who's had 2 #1 hits in Japan. First, here's our digital and culture editor, Paul Mason.
It's from streets like these that small firms fight their way to the top.
Out here, among the meat packers and the MOT garages, it's the last place you'd expect to find state subsidies. But now, things are looking up for the metal industry.
The rock group Savage Messiah have become the latest to get money from the government's music export scheme. To you, it may look like just hair, guitars and black denim, but this is the sound of the British current account balance, slowly improving. The band, who are big in Japan as well as Enfield, are still semi-pro. They'll get several £1,000s from the taxpayer to promote their music abroad.
Rock bands, in general, historically have been noted for spending money on unusual things. I mean, do you have to provide receipts?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of those days are long gone, you know, as it were, the sex, drugs and rock and roll. That's really not an accurate
So you can't just go and trash a hotel bedroom and then bill it to Chancellor of the Exchequer?
No, and to be honest, you wouldn't want to, because most times when we get into a hotel, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, we're leaving at 8.
Savage Messiah's grant is part of £250,000 the government is spending on promoting British bands. Are they aware of the economic sensitivities? Stupid question.
Maybe the sort of the more left-wing heavy metal fans won't mind. Maybe the more reactionary right-wing ones might say, hang on a minute, you know, but it is what it is.
So it's kind of Keynes v Hayek even here among the black T-shirts?
It is, you know, and I mean, it is Keynesian Economics 101, isn't it? The music industry is in decline. So you could equate that to a decline in aggregate demand, and here we go, the state coming in and injecting liquidity into the market to help us out.
When bands made their money from record sales, exports were easier. Digital music and piracy now mean bands make most of their money from tours and merchandising, and the finances for that are more challenging.
Last year, British artists accounted for 1 in 10 of all albums sold in the US and a massive 25% of all music consumed in Europe. So this is a real success story that we're hoping to build on and capitalise on, and I think the music export scheme will certainly help to build on that further.
Normally, this kind of funding goes to blokes at trade shows with laptops and crumpled suits, but this is most definitely a departure from PowerPoint.
Paul Mason down amongst the bands. Well, to talk about this is Dia Chakravarti from the Taxpayers Alliance and singer-songwriter Charlie Taft. She's been given £5,600 from the government to help her career. How are you going to spend it?
Well, actually, I'm taking part in a few songwriting camps, so I'm going to be travelling to South Korea next week for 2 weeks, and then I'm going to be in the States. I'm going to be in Los Angeles and New York.
Well, I mean, if you've had 2 hits in Japan, hasn't that helped fuel your bank balance?
Well, you would think so. The way the royalties are collected in Asia especially, they take a bit of time, so I'm still waiting for royalty checks.
So effectively the government's binding you over until you start getting an income?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, I think it's really difficult for artists these days to you know, to just kind of get a leg up with their career and have the opportunity to travel in an industry that does require a lot of travel. And it's like any kind of small business, you know, you need that cash injection at the beginning just to help you. So this funding is going to be essential for me in progressing my career.
Well, now, dear Chakravarti, first of all, I suppose, does the Taxpayers Alliance recognise that the arts need funding?
Well, think about it this way. You're a hard-pressed family, a member of a hard-pressed family. You're having to budget really hard. You're seeing sometimes essential services being cut because necessary savings are having to be made. And you hear that £5,000 of taxpayers' money are being awarded to bands who may or may not make it. I'm thrilled for Charlie personally, but it really is ludicrous from a taxpayer's
But by the same token,
we really are against it.
So, for example, I mean, ballet gets sponsored by the government.
We're absolutely against that too.
So no
Think
ballet.
about it. Well, absolutely yes, ballet, but it should be people's choice. People should have the option to pay for it if they want to pay for it, but it should never be pushed on people by the government to force us to pay for any sort of art. The government doesn't decide what arts we like and what arts deserve funding and what doesn't.
Charlie.
Well, I think the amount of money that the music industry from the UK generates, especially overseas, definitely warrants this funding. I mean, £5,000 isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. It's really going to be, as I say, essential for my career in helping me, you know, hopefully make more money for the UK economy in years to come.
£5,000 actually is a lot of money for any hard-pressed family, to be fair. And also the second point is, if it was a good investment, it would be a good investment, and there would be private investors lining up to fund these bands. The point is, we're not managing to somehow, perhaps, if we're not managing to convince a private funder that it's a good investment, why is the government convinced that it's a good investment?
What about the idea that this is a small business, as Charlie pointed out?
Yes.
And if it goes well, let's look at the possibility it goes well, because you've only looked at the possibility it goes badly.
Yes.
If it goes well, she could generate massive amount of money.
Absolutely. And if Charlie could prove that to a private investor, then there would be the funds coming in. Until that point...
have you tried proving it to private investors?
It's not even about proving it to private investors. I think I have a proven track record already. I've already proven that I can have success in one of the world's biggest music markets, second biggest music market in the world. So I feel like my success has already kind of spoken for itself. It's, you know, it's not like these acts have been chosen from, you know, from small numbers as well. There's been a lot of people that applied for the grant, and the government really, they looked carefully at who they were going to choose.
I mean, look, it's all very well for the Taxpayers Alliance to have these wonderful moral principles, but why not you help her find a private investor?
Absolutely. If Charlie could prove to me as a private investor or as simply as a consumer that she's a great singer, which I have no doubt she is, then I would be perfectly happy.
Well, she's proved it to the government.
Well, do you really think it's a good idea for musicians to take all their deck and everything into Whitehall and play to the government, and for the government to decide who gets funding and who doesn't? I think it's a ludicrous idea.
But it happens on a raft of things. I mean, hospitals, schools, I mean...
it's like any other creative industry.
So there would be a business plan, which would be a proven business plan. You put it to the investors. They decide whether to pay for it or not. It is not the government's responsibility to tell people...
Charlie, do you see a slightly drab-looking outlook now?
I mean, I think we should be celebrating British talent, British success, especially young talent. I mean, would you rather me sit on the dole and make music in my bedroom?
I would rather you put your music up on YouTube, for example, and see if you get 1,000...
No, she has offered you the option of being on the dole.
Yeah, and that's only a small part of it. It's a very competitive industry, and it takes a lot more than that to make it in the music business.
Charlie, was it Ozzy Osbourne who was a janitor while he was trying to make it big as a musician? There are options to do that. Why don't you do that?
Tragically, we've got to say that's it.
Have you been to a thrash metal concert?
No, but I'm going to the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain.